Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS. Ahead of the matchup between Evil Geniuses and Cloud9, we did have to get some words from Insired because guess what? You were the MasterCard player for your performance in the group stage of Lock-In. First, I just want to ask you, how do you feel that you performed in Lock-In compared to your expectations when you would first be taking to the Rift?
I think during the Lock-In group stage, I played pretty well. I expected the teams to be a bit better, though. I thought it will be like tough competition even from the bottom teams, but it kind of wasn't. It was kind of easy. So the problems only started when we started playing like best of fives against better teams, like the final against TL. But before that, I performed like I expected to. So
even with all of that being said, a lot of the teams are changing in the Spring Split compared to who you faced off against in Lock-In. You faced TSM already with their new roster. You'll be facing Cloud9 eventually as well. How do you feel that that affects you and your team's prep when going against these teams you really haven't gotten to see much of before?
You can't really expect much, right? It's like I didn't know how TSM will play because I didn't know their players before they joined TSM. So I didn't know how they play, what do they like, what champs they like to play. Same for Cloud9. I don't really expect anything, to be honest. I will see when the champion select will start and they will start looking in their champs. Then maybe I'll have some idea what they want to do. But before that, it's like very hard to prepare against those teams. So it will be interesting.
I know a lot of people had an idea of what they wanted to expect from you coming into this because of your previous MVP accolades and then having such a strong start now. Many junglers have talked about the fact that they feel the pool is pretty strong when it comes to that position here in the LCS this year. How do you feel about the rest of the competition within the jungler role?
That's what I was thinking as well. When I came here, I felt like in LEC you had like top junglers that were good and there was like a gap between the bottom junglers, and here there is a lot of good players in the jungle that are similar skill levels, so the competition is very close to each other. So I don't know, it will be fun playing all of them basically. I'm still looking forward to the Blaber matchup because he kicked me out of groups at Worlds this year, so I need to get that revenge on him again.
A little bit of heat there. Do you think it's going to be a dub against Cloud9 though?
I hope so. I mean, I'm looking forward to win against them.
All right, we look forward to watching the matchup. Congratulations on the victory and getting to do your own special pose there. We'll get to catch the action in the EGC9 game. Let's head on over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, LeTigress. Hoping for a win versus Cloud9, and we'll know soon enough whether or not that will come to Inspired. Congratulations to him on receiving the first MasterCard Player of the Week, that is, for his performance in Lock-In. We're also re-welcoming Tim Seven Houston to the broadcast to help us preview this third matchup of the day. It's Evil Geniuses versus Cloud9. Tigress asked him a question about preparation, and that's where I kind of want to go to you first, Tim. This contrast in play styles, and I have it in my head that if you watched yesterday's Cloud9 game, it didn't make it any easier to identify how to go up against this team.
Yeah, no kidding. You can prepare certain things in a very general way, because I think, you know, the really fascinating thing about LS coming in, coaching a team, he has all these kind of certain ways he likes to view the game. You know that he likes to focus on scaling up his team, like winning in the draft, and that, you know, you've got to beat us. Otherwise, if you don't beat us early, we are going to win because that's what we drafted. But the specifics of how they do it, like that draft, I mean, who does that? Who plays those kinds of things?
Who does that? Ellis does that.
You know, from the EG side, yeah. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and I think, so you already kind of outlined, like, what you would do, right? Which is kind of similar to how we saw the Sona TK get countered when SK Telecom brought it to MSI. IG just dove it, like, constantly. But to Golden Guardian's credit, they had drafted a composition that they were like, we have the Yuumi, we have the Kiana, we're really going to focus on this this pick to try to, like, dismantle them early. But once you get one team fight that goes wrong and they didn't pressure their early advantages much as they could have, it just goes all C9's way because they capitalized on that one mistake and suddenly it's over.
Yeah, you see the adaptation with Serpent's Fang going in there for Kiana, you know, but the problem was at that point, You bursted him. This is the team fight. You bursted him down to 30%, and then guess what happens? Here comes the enchanters, basically, to heal him right back to full. It was disgusting to watch, but it's one of those things where it gives your team direction, whereas when they went up against CLG in lock-in, and they had that game 2 draft, where there was no direction, right?
Right.
It's nice to still see. It's basically them looking to scale pretty consistently. I want to see, different colors within their drafts, different looks.
Right.
But this one had a clear idea in how they want to counter their going up against Golden Guardians.
Now back to you on this one, Tim. To Emily's point around the style of composition that Golden Guardians brought out, it definitely was built in a sense to dismantle what Cloud9 was trying to do in the early game and maybe get that snowball advantage. Now in the hands of a team like EG that I think most people will look at as a better team than Golden Guardians, I gotta wonder if they're gonna have that explosiveness that you're talking about to actually take it to Cloud9 early and capitalize. And in that, who is the player that you're identifying as having to be the catalyst to make that happen for EG?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. I think you need I think Golden Guardians had some of the right ingredients, but one of the things they needed is more priority out of the mid lane, I think more pressure so that they can attack the bot lane harder. You might go for top, but I think bot lane is going to be the focal point. I think jojopyun gives them that mid pressure. He's generating it like almost every single game, and they'll probably draft a little bit for that. But then it also comes down to Vulcan and his ability to engage. He pulls the trigger so frequently and so hard, and I think the execution on the engages and their approaches to the team fights is going to be able to kind of take that burden of execution and run with it a little bit better than we saw from Golden Guardians.
100%. That's what jojopyun was able to do in his previous game when he had constant move, and it really punished TSM. And then on top of that, hearing the interview, it was a Travis Gafford interview with Vulcan. He was talking about the fact that that's just how Vulcan wants to play. He wants to constantly have move, and so having priority through bot lane so he can be a lot more aggressive, work with Inspired, that's the goal, and I think we'll see a little bit more of that today.
And Emily, I'm curious, as Tim said, he maybe expects this matchup to be a little bit more bot lane focused. I'm excited to still watch those two top laners go against each other because of the fact that they generally don't give a lot. They're the kinds of players who can do a lot with a little, can play that weak side, and not give a ton of advantages over.
I'd say Impact, yes. Summit, not really. But the funny thing about these two players, I think, is like we know Impact for like Renekton, Gnar, like these are comfort picks he'll go to. Well, guess what Summit likes? Also Renekton, and then we saw the Gnar coming out yesterday, and he was just outside of that one kill that they were able to get on him. He was just kind of chilling. So
sorry, let me push you on that. You don't think Summit is good at weak side?
I mean, I think he received a lot of jungle attention in the LCK from Kroko and also from Effort's support rooms. So I do think that he has played a lot more strong side, as in they have played around him and he's been on carries.
Gotcha. I remember when he first came into the LCK and he was dominant, mostly through that weak side. So like he has different looks, and I'm interested to see what his identity is going to be on Cloud9 because it's very clear just on the outset. You have Berserker and Winsome on the bot side of the map. You want to play towards a really aggressive 2v2 lane, and also that's the name of the game this meta, right? With TP changes. So, and just yesterday, when he was on that Gnar, he actually did some disgusting things to Golden Guardians that they just could not hit him. So he had a pretty damn monstrous game in that one.
Now it's a bit of a separate point, and I realize I'm taking a hard right turn here.
Yeah.
But Tim, I did want to get you in, as well as you mentioned the importance of jojopyun to the success of EG, a little bit on Fudge, because there have been so many questions about how he would adapt to the mid lane, but as well as we talk so much about how LS brings a very strong identity to Cloud9, I think a piece of establishing a strong identity like that is having a team of players who are bought into your philosophy and willing to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Fudge has shown throughout the last couple of years that he believes very strongly in himself, but just because he moved into mid lane and believes that he can become the best mid laner doesn't mean that he thinks that from day one he's going to be able to lane, and win lanes against all the best mid laners in the league. And I think his willingness to pick up, not only to buy into LS's mindset and be creative with the Ivern mid, but also to use it as a way to kind of bridge his learning process of learning how to lane and kind of the standard matchups. It's one where it doesn't really matter if you can play a standard laning matchup and win it or not, because you're playing for scaling, you're playing for something that they're not going to be comfortable with, and you can bring in that creativity, bring in the buy-in, and buy yourself that much more time to keep building his kind of mid lane chops.
And piggybacking on that, we also saw that from a lot of his like rune and itemization choices in the lock-in tournament, right? And I know people will always take like one side or another very like firmly. However, I didn't disagree with it based on what he already talked about in an interview where he's like, I'm still learning matchups. I know I'm good. And it's just about like learning how this new lane is played. Mid lane is incredibly different than top lane.
All right, well, teams are just about ready to load into Champions Select, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you for your prediction before we let you go, Tim. In this matchup between Cloud9 and EG, who do you think is ultimately going to take it?
I think EG are going to win this one.
Boom.
You agree?
I'm gonna echo that.
All right.
I picked C9, actually.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. As we get ready to toss it out to our casters, it's Flowers, Azael, and MarkZ on the call.
Welcome back, esports fans. It's game number 3, day number 2, week number 1. Here are the regular season of the LCS. I'm Captain Flowers, that's Azael, and we got
Who's
Mr.
this guy?
Mark Zimmerman back here today.
It's becoming a habit, Mark.
I had a lot to say about this game, so I skipped the AD. I was like, I got to get on the cast, so I jumped up
Not
here.
enough time.
I need more screen time. You guys are my backup dancers for this one because I have so much to say.
Yeah.
All right, well, what's your hottest take? Burn us down.
Do you want to come front and
Cloud9
center?
are
We should
fun
be in the
to
background,
watch.
like, you know.
Okay, Mark says
Wow, that's a hot take.
Cloud9's fun
Yeah.
to watch. That one's sizzling.
Burn your mouth
so,
with that one, or what?
All right. You want a
All
real
right.
hot take?
All right, what do you
Yeah,
got?
I would.
Golden Guardian should have won that game. Boom!
Okay.
that
Yesterday.
it?
Is
I don't
that-
know, is it?
All right,
Well, I
well,
don't know. They were up 2,500 gold early.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
Yeah.
Speaking of early game stuff, EG has been the most dominant early game team through lock-in. So when people talk about the style of Cloud9 going late, all these enchanters and stuff, this is the ideal team to stat check them kind of early on in the season.
and it's also going to be more of a test than Golden Guardians, who most people put at
Absolutely.
the bottom of the rankings. Evil Geniuses impressed everybody in lock-in. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch. It's Twisted Fate, Senna, Karma, Corki, and Zeri all banned away. Caitlyn, our final ban of the first half of the draft. How does C9 want to do this one? Thresh immediately locked in for Winsome.
Good to see the Thresh pick. Winsome coming over from the academy, or the amateur level, excuse me, of the Korean scene. This is a more mechanically intensive champion than the Sona. I think he played the Sona really well. He stuffed the dive with one of his stuns. Like, it looked good so far, but I'm excited to see him on something that requires a little bit more interaction through the laning phase.
And it'll be interesting to see if we are going to get more of a standard draft today. Yesterday, we really did see what people would expect out of LS, something a little bit different, double enchanter, lots of scaling. You know, the Gnar was maybe the one thing that people would say, that's not a pick that you would normally like, but it was playing weak side, and it's one of Summit's best champions, if not his best. So going to be really interested to kind of follow that. You know, was that something that they're just saying, hey, we can do this against Golden Guardians, or is that the kind of stuff that they want to bring out against the top teams in the league?
Yeah, and on the Summit point, his most plays last split in LCK were Gnar and Renekton, which are two things that, you know, LS calls sinners all the time. But in his AMA leading up to the season, people were like, are you going to pick sinner champions? And LS's kind of philosophy they shared
Olaf.
was, there's an Olaf. His philosophy was, as long as I'm sinning less than my opponent, you know, like you can take, you know, Gnar's a little bit better late game than Renekton, so as
JoJo's
long as
hovering
it's
the
less.
Ivern.
Yeah, just trying to let them know they're aware of what might go down here. But Cloud9, they get Blaber on his classic Olaf. They've got the Aphelios Thresh combination that we see picked together so often in the bottom lane. Response from EG. Roles will be matched. So Zhao versus Olaf there in the jungle, and Jinx Leona for the bottom lane of Evil Genius.
I'm always such a fan of champion player combos that might not necessarily be the meta, but it's always in season for a player like Blaber to bring out the Olaf. Even when no one else is playing Olaf, he will catch Olaf bans against him because he has been so dominant over the last couple of years in the LCS with this pick. A large portion of him winning MVP was him running over teams day in, day out with the Olaf.
And it feels like, other than the Xin Zhao, the jungle pool is relatively open. We've seen Poppies, we've seen Trundles, we've seen J4s. Like, whatever your signature is in the jungle, it feels like people can kind of just go to.
And I like what we're seeing in the bans here, paying respect already to what we saw from Cloud9 yesterday. The fact that they're willing to play the Enchanters mid, do this type of style, even though they've already got the Thresh locked in.
They actually banned
Lulu
Ivern.
is banned
Wow.
away, Ivern is banned away. Two different champions that could play a supportive style mid lane to back up that Olaf. That's what EG's going to target.
So one thing I will say, you know, even if you're EG and you're thinking, okay, well, Ivern isn't actually that good, it still makes sense to ban picks that you have no practice against, right? If you think that C9 may do this, and you are not really comfortable playing against it. Now we're going to get Soraka.
Oh my god, this is the quintessential LS champion. He's putting this thing in S tier and solo lanes every patch. You know, like, this is the champ.
I ran into LS behind the scenes before the games today. I said, hey man, I really liked what we got to see yesterday, spicing up the draft a little bit. I was like, I hope you got some more deviations in store for us. He said, oh yeah, I do. I was like, all right, I'm ready to see the cells. He's like, oh, there's no cells. So apparently the Soraka was the play the entire time here. This is what they're going for. I'm excited to see how this works out because Tryndamere will be locked in along with Viktor here for the side of EG.
Really interesting to see the Tryndamere come out to actually answer the Camille. You know, I'm assuming they're not going to get too crazy. I mean, Jojo has actually been the guy to play the Tryndamere, so theoretically it could be Viktor top and Tryndamere, you know, being played, by Jojo, but
yeah,
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I assume that's going to end up being Tryndamere top there.
It just feels like so not an impact champion, you know, because it's not a champion that is really adept at grouping. Even when he plays side lane champions like Gwen, it's side lane champions that can actually group in 5v5. Tryndamere can function in 5v5, but generally only with flash, and it's really not your strength.
And this is something, I want to go to a point that you and I were talking about behind the scenes yesterday. Because we were talking about how when you're playing these side laners that are carries, when you're playing these split pushers, Gwen was the example before, now we're looking at a Tryndamere, you've got to be able to play selfishly enough. We generally talk about selfish play in a negative light, but when you're playing a champion like this, you've got to be able to be selfish.
You need to get rich on a Tryndamere to have value. You are only the damage you're putting out. There's no utility from this champion whatsoever, so that's going to be a really interesting one. And Impact is not playing TP. It is Ghost Flash, solo queue style. This is really exciting. Damn, that was sexy. That was looking nice.
I love the light shows, and I love myself some exciting matchups in League of Legends.
I'll admit I turned around, looked into one of the lights, and kind of got blinded.
Why are you gonna blind yourself?
Because it looked so cool. I turned around, one of the lights hit me right in the face.
Mark is the kid that stares at the eclipse and like licks the frozen pole. And stuff,
that's
you know?
me. That's me. It's science, all right. I'm just.
He is an experimenter.
Yeah.
He is. He's learning. He's learning, my friend.
Speaking of science, this is a scientific draft by Cloud9 here, finally debuting the solo lane Soraka. When you look at the comp and how it's going to play, it's definitely there to support the side lane Camille, I think, as well as enabling kind of some aggressive play for the Olaf that you can keep kind of topping him up. Fulfilling a bit of an enchanter role, but less about enabling, whereas a lot of enchanters speed you up, provide extra CC, buff up your stats. Soraka is a lot about just healing over the top, as well as the global healing.
Yeah, and the healing can actually be really, really effective with Olaf. You know, if Olaf can get aggressive, can get in the face, you know, of the Xin, you can have that cross-map presence with your ultimate to really sway any of these duels. The same thing can be said up top lane. You know, if Summit is able to actually kite out the Tryndamere ultimate, you know, with the help of that Soraka ult, it'll be pretty interesting. But I'm excited to see how this mid lane matchup actually goes, because yesterday it was the Ivern into the Viktor. I did think in that matchup it was going to be early levels. You could compete against the push that Viktor has, but again, especially once you get that upgraded laser, it becomes very difficult for these enchanters to stay out from under their tower. That's where I'm really curious to see how he's going to be able to compete in the 1v1.
Yeah, see some aggressive trading in the bot lane. On that mid lane point, the Lux that he picked, it was into jojopyun, that matchup where, you know, Fudge got absolutely slammed in lock-in. It was the Lux into Viktor, and he had a very tough time there. Doing a bit better with this matchup, but it is something that I'm sure he wants revenge on for how he kind of got styled on.
Well, back here in mid, Fudge, of course, does not have that lane control here nice and early. Not even an unupgraded laser is going to be outdone by a Soraka early on like that. So Jojo will get that shoved up. You can see both of your junglers heading towards the top side now, both doing that bottom side start. The important thing to note here, Blaber does have an extra camp up over Insired.
And one of the most important things, you know, I've messed around a little bit with Soraka solo lane myself, is actually just how many Qs you hit. You've got to be hitting those Qs to stay topped up, because it is your wave clear, but it is also your sustain. You can't heal yourself with your W. You've got to land the Qs on the enemy champion to get that heal over time. And so far, Jojo has been nailing every laser, and Fudge has not been able to hit a single Q.
That's the big part. That what went wrong in the first time that he played that Lux was he got hit by pretty much everything that Jojo was throwing out. And it's happening a little bit again here, already shoved in. You expect to lose the wave early, but Inspired wants to play with that pressure.
Inspired going after Blaber here. Second part of the 3 Talon strike going in. They find the knockup. Damage following through. The smite from Blaber to heal himself up, but it's still first blood over to Evil Geniuses. However, now we've got Summit coming in. Looking to clean these boys up. Inspired wants to get away, but an flash is in. Zhao might be able to turn things back around here with a smite. He's going for the 3 Talon strike and knocks him right up into the air. Soraka rotates over, but what is Fudge to do? jojopyun Inspired, excuse me, still working for this one. His time here has expired, however, as it's time to leave. No smite left to secure the buff. He had to use it to stay alive, but nicely played to come out on top.
Very well done by Evil Geniuses, playing around their priority to collapse early on. And I just gotta say, the Soraka ambulance arrived a little too late. You could see the speed up that you get, the movement speed around a low health enemy, trying to get into the jungle to top up Summit, just not able to get there, but at least protected the blue buff.
And one of the big things here is the wave. The wave is already pushed in at this tower, so when Camille is moving down to try to assist, you're walking away from all of those minions up in the top side. So yes, Summit does get down here. Blaber has the smite to heal late there. Impact is always going to go down, but the top lane CS is going to be pretty separated here. As this wave crashes top, Impact's going to pick up all this farm and start to extend an advantage, and that is one of the things that really hurts when you are roaming away from that pushing wave.
In mid lane, you saw Vulcan rotating over to mid, looking to make some sort of a collapse here. Fudge flashed before the Zenith Blade, but Vulcan missed on the follow-up, so they were not able to chase after the Cloud9 mid laner. Fudge escapes that one, but now as a half HP Soraka with no flash, he has to be very mindful about return visits.
And this is already such a great illustration of some of the debates that people get into philosophically when discussing early game versus late game. You know, we saw it yesterday a little bit in the Golden Guardians time where they got an early advantage against Cloud9. They were able to get a lead, but then once all the item power spikes started coming online, you start fighting 5v5s, this Enchanter-focused late game kind of comp outscales it.
Yep.
Here, it's a similar story early on. EG has made a lot of good plays, forcing the flash, you know, disinvade. Can they keep snowballing? And EG is usually so good at this, but it is very punishing because one mistake can flip the entire game.
The other thing that's really interesting is one of my answers that I always love when I'm playing against Enchanter comps, and to be fair, this is only one Enchanter. It is Thresh bot, you know, it's not Lulu, Soraka, whatever.
Right, yeah.
Is split push, and Tryndamere can do that because generally these types of comps, Soraka succeeds when she's going to be grouping later on. Summit will have the hook shot out, but a couple crits there does start to hurt. And if he has eyes on Inspired, you're not too worried, but if you haven't seen the jungler and the wave is stacking top, you do start to get a little bit nervous. But anyway, to go back to the point, you can avoid the 5v5 a little bit as the Tryndamere by just refusing to group, by running down sides, by drawing people to you, and trying to create a difficult situation for Cloud9.
And with this wave crashing into the top lane here against Summit, Impact isn't worried at all about walking past the turret, Summit getting a bit of free trade damage onto him there. It doesn't matter. The ability of Tryndamere to sustain, to heal back up, and to continue exerting this pressure is massive. Impact is 51 farm versus 26. Yes, there are quite a few minions here for Summit to pick up, but you absolutely do not want to be down this much against Tryndamere in the early game. And hey, props to EG for putting Summit in a spot where he had to lose so much to help his team.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see if Impact can carry this game. This was one of the things that Azael was saying, you know, at the start. Like, this is not what you think of for
It's not his style.
Impact champion, but, you know, as we hit a pause here, this is something that he's been branching out more and more on EG than we had ever seen really in his career. Even going back to, like, some of the SKT days, the TIP days, you know, like, people relied on him to carry sometimes, but it wasn't, like, full-on greedy style. And he's played Graves this year. He's played Gwen. He's playing Tryndamere now. And I think seeing that, you know, what is it, 9 years into his career, he's still reinventing himself and picking up new champions.
Yep, and Vulcan does have a little bit of a mouse issue there on stage, so we will be waiting for that to be resolved. But I agree. I mean, I think this is the most outside of the Impact box that I would say, because even though he has diversified his champion pool, he's not just the tank guy, and he never really was that. I think that was kind of a mischaracterization. But everything else that you kind of mentioned, when he played Gnar, and when he would play Kennen, and when he would play Gwen, and when he plays
even
Graves,
like Morgana top and stuff.
Like he would do these things, but he would use them for side lane pressure to then come in 5v5 with an advantage. Tryndamere generally is not that. Maybe he'll still try to play it that way, but generally when you think of Tryndamere, Tryndamere wins games through sides, wins games through pushing and moving. You know, it's about kind of more the skirmishes and less the 5v5, and almost every champion he plays generally ends up 5v5.
Especially when you consider the other pieces in the composition. You have a Viktor, you have a Jinx. These champions are phenomenal at being able to just clear waves, hang back, stay safe, while Tryndamere applies his pressure and does what needs to be done.
And I think it's also, even if he wants a 5v5, very difficult to actually 5v5 as Tryndamere into champions like Thresh, who have the peel, who have that glacial slow, the box to really mix things up, makes it difficult to stick to your target.
Yeah, we see an all-in
What's
here.
the dive? Oh, okay.
All right. They're going to trade Ignite for Ghost here in the top lane. As soon as he sees that summoner dropped, Impact says, okay, good enough. I'll trade that. Backs off.
Yeah, and so we talk about the 4-1 for EG here. I think it's interesting if they actually want to use the Tryndamere to split, because you're talking about this kind of Thresh peel, and it is annoying for a Tryndamere by himself, but if you can force those skills out, there's really nothing else to peel for the side of C9. It's a straight shot onto the Soraka and the Aphelios if you can get around the box.
Oh, we're ready to go for a smite fight. It will go over the way of Cloud9, but what about the rest of the fight thereafter? Vulcan having to get away. Inspired shut down. Massive heals end up coming out from Fudge, and it keeps people alive. Double kill back over to Blaber. That is exactly what Soraka was picked for.
It's a repeat of yesterday. They bait the enemy team into coming around these objectives, the dragons, and the people cannot stay away. You take these 4v4s, the enchanters come in, and those low health targets get topped up.
I mean, the biggest issue for me is that it's so split. I mean, look at Danny. Danny's way behind the play here over on the side. They go in for what they think is a 2v2, but Berserker is much closer, and you have Danny way over here. The fight is already decided before the Jinx can really enter.
And even though jojopyun gets in there first, Fudge contributed with the ultimate from Soraka. You don't actually need to be first to play if you have the global. And then he shows up a little bit late, in air quotes, but is still able to get the heals onto Blaber, keep him topped up. And if there's one person who knows how to play the line, it's Blaber. He knows exactly how far he can push Olaf.
Man, oh man, Cloud9 and these early and mid-game dragon fights with enchanters, it seems to be a recipe for success, my friend.
Yeah, people have got to pay respect to it. You know, grouping is where these champions really, really shine. It was the downfall yesterday of Golden Guardians. You know, in this 4v5 getting ace, this one is not nearly as bad for EG, and they are still slightly ahead, but that is a big deal, putting Blaber in a position that he can carry from. Also going to be interesting to see who invests in early Grievous wounds and how quickly they bring it out. Because if you want to fight, if you want a 5v5, you absolutely must have Grievous wounds against Olaf plus Soraka.
I think you still have the option of starting to invest in Impact a little bit more.
Yep.
You can look at that play and be like, okay, why have we not been on these stacked waves? There's been a couple times where Impact has gotten pressure. The Rift Herald's up. I think you want to find an opportunity to get that without it becoming a 5v5, and then hopefully snowball his lane, because he's already got a nice CS advantage in the 1v1 for the most part. You can hopefully find a way to blow the game open through him if these 5v5s keep going bad.
And you can see Cloud9 continuing to play the neutral objective game here. It is Blaber starting up the Rift Herald. No, he doesn't have anybody else near him right now, but Berserker and Winsome have both rotated up from bottom lane. They'll continue shoving in the wave in mid. Fudge is nearby as well, ready to go. Does not quite have the cooldown up for Wish just yet. But considering nobody from Evil Geniuses is anywhere nearby to contest this, that's free Herald for Cloud9.
Still like C9, kind of doing a half roam. You show up mid lane to say, hey, we're moving for this. EG abandons it, and then you don't actually have to commit those resources. You do lose a couple waves, minions having to move back down, but it's not like you lost 3 waves like we sometimes see.
And they didn't even lose a plate, so not a big deal at all, but I kind of tend to agree with what you were talking about earlier, Mark. You know, especially because it is a flashless Camille, I do think there is the opportunity to actually pressure Summit here. We're seeing Impact constantly force out the hookshot defensively from Summit. You have Tryndamere ulti to actually set up these dives. If you can get the hookshot out, bring Inspired in, just tank up the tower with that Tryndamere ulti, Camille should not have a lot of options to escape from a situation like that.
And talking about escape options, an important mythic just now completed for Berserker in that Gale Force, so a little bit of extra escape opportunity for the Aphelios in these fights if Thresh is not able to peel for him like we were discussing earlier. Both of our junglers have those Gore Drinkers completed, but man, this really showcases how much quicker Olaf can farm than Zhao. When you look at the farm numbers between these two, Blaber will just constantly be building that lead.
Yeah, I mean, he's just absolutely maximizing his farm and now looking for Jojo, who has no flash. You're dead.
Oh, Fudge with the flash to set it up. Jojo, I don't think there's any way out, buddy. The gravity well ain't gonna do much for you, and Blaber cuts him down.
I actually really like getting that gold on the Blaber as well. They're very smart about making sure that your frontline diver is able to get ahead, because Soraka's just there to throw buffs on top of him. Just make sure he's able to build damage.
Soraka's going to be able to afford Moonstone. That's about all.
He's out full build.
Yeah. Well, Jojo also attacking that player without flash. That's a good punish because that was a 30+ CS advantage that he had actually been at. Now, post 100 CS, he has the upgraded laser. Things can start to get really tough to hold on in that lane. So Fudge is going to need assistance. You don't want to leave that in isolation. And at the same time, they're just going to drop the Herald. That tower will be gone bot. Some more gold into the pockets of Berserker, as well as Blaber here, as long as they can finish that off.
Nope, not quite able to get there. The turret does not fall just yet because the Herald was summoned up immediately.
He just wants it.
Blaber's going underneath the
my
turret.
God.
It looked like he was low, but Soraka said no! Fudge presses his heel, he presses his other heel, and Blaber just runs him over.
You can just feel that Jojo had no idea that he was in lethal range in that sense. How
100% HP under your tower, lethal range.
Yeah, how do you know that? How many people have played against Olaf Soraka mid lane recently to know that this is a dangerous spot to be in?
Speaking of a dangerous spot to be in, Impact has found Summit, and man, that rage is undying. Impact picks up his first kill here.
Flexing his muscle in the top lane there. Impact getting the solo kill. That is big. It is the trade of full summoners. Of course, Summit going to come out slightly ahead because he just spends the Ignite for the flash and that Ghost. But that was prior to having Gale Force, and Impact was already up in gold before that. If you can pick up a couple plates here on the top side, go back, finish your full Mythic, that lane is going to start being very problematic for Cloud9.
And they absolutely need him to do this too, because it feels like all the eggs are in the Impact basket now.
Yeah.
The 4v4 has not gone well. Yes, you still scale well, but with how bad the mid lane's gone, 0-3 already, how far ahead the Olaf is, like it feels it's on Impact now to carry this game.
I agree, and it's actually a really good comp, though, for him to be able to do it with, because you have a lot of wave clear from the Jinx, from the Viktor. That 4-man squad can play relatively defensively. The trick, though, is that Cloud9 has taken all the neutrals early.
Yeah.
So the third dragon is going to draw you to a team fight. Maybe they say, okay, we'll just give up the third dragon, but then you are always one mistake away from losing soul, and very likely one mistake away from losing the game, which becomes very, very scary. But Impact, of course, did have a big buy. He gets the Gale Force. He has the Grievous Wounds, so that's going to be feeling really, really good. But I still just don't have a lot of confidence in their 5v5 at this point in the game.
And I like how Cloud9 makes sure they're always focusing on these Drakes nice and early when they're running these types of compositions. They're guaranteeing that they have that chance here in 4 minutes or so, 18 minutes into the game, to say, oh no, you have to fight us now, otherwise we're going to be on soul point for the rest of the game. You don't get that if you're waiting till 11 or 12 minutes to take the first dragon. C9 knows exactly what they should be playing around when they're playing these types of comps, and I'm looking forward to seeing how EG answers here when that spawns.
I think that's the big question now, because you're going to really have a tough time if you're just 4v4 standoff in the river against C9's comp. I think the best idea would actually be to find a pick right before it.
In his face.
He's going to be able to do it.
No problem.
Yeah, I think EG, to slow this kind of dragon stacking, is not to contest the dragon outright, but find a pick hopefully a minute before so that you can just grab it with an advantage if you can find someone without Soraka nearby, because once you're grouped up, no one is really in burstable range.
Yeah, it becomes very, very difficult, and that's honestly why the earlier contest really hurt them, because I think if they don't make that mistake, and they are playing at this point in the game, coming up on dragon number 3 from a few thousand gold ahead, the game looks so wildly different. But because they gave a couple of those kills to Blaber, he gets ahead of the pace of the game. His farm is accelerated. He can pull off things like that dive onto Jojo mid. They can take that Herald bot. That's cracked for Berserker, who gets absolutely rich here as well.
And the important thing is, Impact is a large part of why this game is even. But he does not want to be 4v4. So if you just look at the 4 red members below Impact, they are substantially behind Berserker and Blaber, who will actually be there for the team fight. Even though gold lead is equal, where that gold is distributed in a game can really make a difference in how the fights go.
And Enchanters just kind of really nix what the gold means.
True.
Because Soraka with Moonstone is so much more powerful than a Viktor with the same amount of gold. It's
Without
just,
as a mythic completed yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that your items are so efficient. It's the same principle that we see with Janna Top and these types of champions. You don't need the same amount of gold to be just as effective. But now, focusing up towards that top side, Impact's going to roam, and they're going to try to punch Cloud9.
Evil Geniuses are not getting the fight they wanted. Berserker has already killed Danny, but Impact claims Fudge. He's now in the middle with Inspired looking to help him here. As Summit goes right back in. Impact's able to stay alive. They burst down the enemy player there. And that's going to be both solo laners down, but traded away for jungler and AD carry. Vulcan sure to not survive this one, you would think. Winsome keeps on chasing, brings Berserker back in here with a lantern, wants to give the money to the AD carry, and they got it 3 for 2. The fight favors Cloud9.
The story is this, though. Jojo pushing on that bottom side, so they are down in kills in that play, but they're going to be able to trade back a tower here. It's going to be a lot of gold for Jojo, plus multiple waves lost from Cloud9 to that tower. So all things considered, it stays relatively even.
Yeah, and the Tryndamere is going to be able to pick up that farm at the end. I like the idea from here, EG. You have Fudge in a bit of an awkward spot where he's pincered.
Danny got roasted.
Yeah, Danny blew up. He also got pincered on a little bit. But the fact that you killed the Soraka early in the fight means that like no one's going to be getting topped up. We talked about how being a single enchanter comp this one time. If you blow up that one enchanter, you can probably win the fight. The Viktor is not there, but after getting a couple kills here, Impact actually picks up the mid wave, pushes that in, then rotates up and collects all that farm that Blaber just pushed in top lane. So we talk about the advantage accruing for Impact. It's going to get even bigger now. It has 3 1-in-1 and a massive CS lead, highest actually just behind the AD carries.
I mean, he's nearly 3,000 gold ahead of Summit at this point. He is monstrously strong. And with Berserker having no flash and Impact having his flash, this next fight at Dragon becomes much more winnable because Tryndamere can actually function in 5v5 if you can E-flash onto the backline and really stick to them. You use your Gale Force to answer their Gale Force, and you really try to just burst down one of these backline carries. And given that Berserker doesn't have flash to answer, it's going to be a lot on Winsome to have those options to keep his carry safe with the Lantern.
Importantly, Berserker does have Bloodthirster completed, so he will have the extra sustain. He does have the extra shield to survive some of that burst at the start. But the work is cut out for him here. Let's see how Cloud9 are going to navigate this. Blaber's the first over to the Drake. He'll start that one up with Fudge right behind him. Jojo is top. Yes, he has teleport. Yes, it's unleashed, but it doesn't matter. They will not contest for third Drake. They're saying that this is more risk than it is reward. They will let that go. But now it will be up to them to contest in the future. Also worth noting, because it is Cloud Soul, it can influence that decision as well, put less value on it, say, all right, not worth losing for that.
Yeah, we were just talking before about, hold on, we might have another all-in here.
Okay.
Just land the hook shot.
All right.
Whew, it was a max range one, so I was like, if you whip that, you about to die.
Yeah, it's like,
I was going to say, though, given that we were just talking about how far behind the Viktor was, Jojo didn't even have Mythic before just now, you know, it would be scary to fight there with such a weak Viktor. I understand the idea being, let's get a little bit more gold on Viktor, get him a little bit further into the game. We do actually scale decently well with Jinx Viktor, and we'll take the fight next time. Maybe Olaf will drop off a little bit if we slow the pace of the game down. Those are probably some of the things that they're thinking about.
It makes a lot of sense, you know, from that point of view, but it's also always something that really makes me nervous because now you're saying all of the dragon setups for the rest of the game have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You can never get picked, you can never lose vision, you can never mis-execute in the 5v5, or you will give soul. And yeah, people have lower value on Cloud Soul, but I actually think Cloud Soul on Olaf is one of the strongest champion soul combinations in the entire game. And this game for Cloud9 is largely about the Olaf, who's already mega fed. You're giving him essentially a free ghost on his ultimate plus his own ghost. Danny becomes irrelevant at that point. You will never escape from this guy who's just Usain Bolt running at you and hitting you over the head.
And he also has a lot more amplification of his own healing and the Soraka healing now. Spirit Visage completed as that second item. Danny is a one-item Jinx, not exactly a huge DPS threat at this point in time. Granted, Jojo is also behind, but if you're the Olaf, the only thing you're really worried about is if when you originally run in, resistance is reduced because of Ragnarok just getting blown up. Spirit Visage means that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I feel like part of this is just going to be letting Blaber do what he wants in these fights. You don't really have a way to stop an ulted Olaf anyways.
Yeah.
So I think for Jojo, for example, a lot of it will be dropping your damage on whoever Impact wants to kill, most likely the Soraka.
Yep.
And finding ways to make sure that if both backlines are dying, we do it faster. Because neither team has that many tools to keep people alive. I mean, you know, we talked about the Thresh.
Whoop, mid lane. It's going to be a turret claimed by Cloud9. They want to get that Herald charge off on the second turret, but they can't get there. Evil Geniuses cleared that one away in time. Cloud9 still with a lead in the game, but it's not even 1,000 gold. They are still at soul point, just under 3 minutes until that next Drake spawns. 21 minutes into the game now. Baron is also alive, should any of these team fights find their way handedly either way.
Quick Blades now coming through here for Impact. That is a really big purchase for side lane play because it allows you to get the resets on your E. The mobility becomes really, really high as you're getting that additional CDR and you're getting that cooldown reduction on crits for your basic abilities. So Summit is going to have to be really careful. If you are too far out, Hookshot will no longer save you in a long lane. If you're by your tower, sure, but if you overextend, this guy can chase you down.
Yeah, I also like bringing in some healing cutting as well, both for side landing because the Soraka ult can come in over the top if you're trying to kill someone, and in team fights, making sure you're hitting the priority target.
Impact does find himself taking a chunk of damage there, but he's out, no problem.
I'm actually so surprised Summit didn't just ult him there. You know, with Blaber right behind him. I guess they didn't have vision. Yeah, if we look at the map, there's no vision in the river at all from C9. So I think that's the only reason. You have no idea if there's 4 or 5 behind Impact. And of course, in that case, it would have turned bad.
And some of C9 was on a reset. So if your Soraka's not in range to, you know, Wambulance in there and start healing you up, then you start having a little bit more issue.
Oh boy. Well, we got the slow.
Right.
E right on top of the hook shot. Summit tries to stay alive here. He's got the ulti coming in from Fudge to do it a little bit better. Impact keeps on going, and they've already found the enemy top laner. Blaber's gonna be killed. Impact cuts him down.
Blaber may be strong, but Impact is the king in this game. Double kill from the Tryndamere. Mark, you said he had to carry, and he's looking like he can.
EG pulled Cloud9 apart. They were not grouped up for that, so they could actually take them down one at a time. Target Summit, then target Blaber, now target Baron.
And that Spirit Visage, as much as the solo healing, the increased self-healing helps, that is not going to save you from the Tryndamere. Soraka was not there in position, and now they're on the Baron here. Pressure on Cloud9 to try to make something happen. It's all about Berserker. He's the only carry alive.
He's the only one with any damage. The other 2 are support, and they're both stuck inside the box. How's it gonna be? Winsome tries to peel for everybody, but it will not matter. That box doesn't do enough. Fudge is already down, but Summit's able to return into the fight and take out Vulcan. Jojo has no flash. I'll see you later, buddy. Nothing left to him. So Cloud9, they will get a 2-for-1 in the fight afterwards, but it is Baron over to Evil Genius.
Yeah, they get the Baron, but the problem is Jojo's respawn is not going to be up for Soul, so I think it actually ends up going bad for EG. Yes, they do get that Baron, but because they lose members doing it, you won't be able to prevent the Soul, that permanent buff, so that's putting even more pressure on Impact to really just 1v9 this game with his advantage.
Yeah, it's almost net even after everything that seemed to be going well for EG. You still have the Baron after, and Impact does have it. So once this resolves around the Soul point, I wonder if EG can continue to grab some side lane turrets. They still don't have the mid lane one down, which speaks to how hard it is for their 4v4.
I mean, they have 2 minutes here of power with the Baron, right? But the Soul is permanent, and that is going to be massive power for Blaber. And not only for Blaber, but even for champions like, you traditionally don't think Camille gets a lot of value out of it, but the flat move speed is so powerful on a lot of these champions. And Tryndamere requires to stay faster, essentially, than your opponent. It's very difficult to actually chase these guys down with 10% additional flat move speed. So it's going to be a tough one now for EG. Maybe eyes got a little bit too big there, and unfortunately, they couldn't get out after they take the Baron.
Well, these next minute and a half, this has got to be something here for the side of Evil Geniuses. But the map's not really set up for them to do a whole lot with it. There is one tier 1 turret still standing. It's here in the mid lane, and Berserker, Fudge, and Blaber are all positioned defensively to stop EG from getting a lot done very quickly. We'll see if they can turn it into a whole lot. It's Danny, Vulcan, and Insired here. Impact is looking to set himself back up in bottom while Jojo farms up top. Jojo is still playing catch-up this game. Summit gets away over the wall. Impact can't kill him again there. But again, the wave is not anywhere. There's not a lot for him to push.
And that may look silly, but Impact was actually trying to Gale Force past Summit to interrupt his hookshot. Because if you can get in between him and the wall, you could stop that hookshot from going off there. And actually then, Summit has no way out without the flash. Another thing we haven't really touched on this game, because it's been so much going on, is the fact that Cloud9's comp is essentially pure physical damage. And that is why we're starting to see some armor stacking coming in here. The Tryndamere, not a champion that you really associate with a lot of defensive items, actually went full Randuin's. We see a full Randuin's on Inspired. He's going to be going probably into a Thornmail next. And that armor buy is going to become so incredibly efficient when all of the damage is Aphelios, it's Olaf, and it is Camille.
What's so interesting about this too is the question is time to kill. Is the armor allowing you to kill people through Soraka healing, or are you just gimping your damage and now you can't kill through the Soraka healing? It's actually such an interesting problem that you'd have to really do some math on and be like, well, is this even worth it technically?
One thing I will say that sometimes isn't thought about much as armor on split pushers is it allows you to pull off tower dives a lot more effectively because you're taking so much reduced damage from the towers as well. You know, so that can be pretty powerful. And in a potential 1v2, it's going to be super efficient against Blaber and Summit.
And a little bit of a slow to tack on as well. If you're chasing someone down in an extended sequence, it is something, when you're talking about this cloud buff that they're going to have for the rest of the game, can aid you in that situation as well.
Now, I'm very also interested in the fact that we have 2.5 minutes on the Baron here, 3.5 minutes on the Elder Drake.
He needs to stay between him and the wall.
Soon, Summit tries to get away there. He gets himself out a little bit, but they've still got way too much manpower down here. They don't even bother using the Soraka ult from Cloud9. They know there is no way out for Summit, and Impact continues his operations here in the side.
I'm actually so impressed by how Impact is playing this game and this matchup, really understanding that against a flashless Camille, it's all about blocking the hookshot. That's why he's popping the Ghost early. That's why he's using the Gale Force early. It's not for the damage, it's for the reposition to stay in between Summit and the wall and deny any distance for the hookshot.
And for the rest of EG as well, to get in position to aid Impact in these situations, these little windows where there's no important objective, finding a path down there, because it would still be hard for him if he had to do an extended chase down sequence, but the extra CC that came in from Inspired and Vulcan made it a very quick kill. It forces Olaf to actually answer a lot of these. You see Soraka falling very far behind in farm because Olaf is actually the one collecting a lot of these side waves when Viktor pushes, for example. They want to keep the Soraka middle of the map at all times.
And one of the problems is, if Olaf has to answer a side lane, well, guess what? The rest of your squad without him is very, very weak. You're not going to be wanting to take these 3-man fights, these 4-man fights, without the Olaf around. So it's becoming a very interesting game here. And Impact has bought a lot of time for Jojo to actually complete a couple items. He has the Shadow Flame through now, so a lot of heavy spell pen in this build. You can also see Danny on 3 full items as well with the LDR through. So EG's other carries are becoming a true threat.
We have under 1 minute until we get the Baron now, and that's only going to be a short window of about a minute itself until both super buffs are alive on the map. That always creates an interesting push and pull between those different locations. Are you going to trade those back and forth? Is somebody going to commit to one or the other? These are the types of situations where teams can really just make or break the entire game in a single call if you do it wrong.
I think this is so interesting as well, given that Olaf is a champion that typically falls off. It's one of the reasons he's on the center list. But now you've kind of all-in on him. Yes, Berserker is fairly strong at 3 items, but in terms of backline threat, it still feels like it's on Blaber, given the fact that the Camille never really got off the ground.
Well, he's trying to get away from Tryndamere now. Impact keeps on the chase. He already used the spin. Even with Nabori Quick Blades, he can't just spin back-to-back like that, so he can't chase him over the wall. The rest of the team's there anyway. Cloud9 has control over the EG bot side jungle as the Baron spawns, EG defending their tier 2 turrets.
It's all about the side push, though. They're trying to shove out these waves as much as possible. As soon as Cloud9 showed on this wave bot side, immediately Jojo cancels his recall, he pushes out another wave because they are trying to force Cloud9 to not function as a squad. They want them pulled to the side lanes. They want them split up, trying to answer fights in different areas and buying more and more time for EG to scale up and scale up and scale up. Because if this game goes to 5-6 items, all of a sudden Olaf pops ult and he runs in real fast, but he runs in real fast and gets one shot by the Viktor and the Jinx.
Yup, straight to his own death. That Jinx is on 3 items. LDR, Kraken Slayer, Phantom Dancer. No Infinity Edge yet for either one of the AD carries. They both are going to have meaty targets they have to kill first, so the LDR has that very high value. When you're looking at Blaber, he's got Sterix. Blaber still has no armor. When you look at the threats on the enemy team, there is 1 AP threat, 3 AD threats. More like 2.5 since Zinjal's mostly just
Elder
tank.
time.
But man, we'll see how well he's able to sustain here in these fights. Evil Geniuses and Cloud9 ready to square off around the Elder Drake pit. Cloud9 with control over the area here at the start, shoving up the waves, clearing out the vision. EG will have to find a way to contest here. They do not want to give this buff away to C9, who are already starting it up.
Yeah, they're just brute forcing it. Impact couldn't even shove out the bot wave. He needs to group the rest of his team here.
The Drake already below half. Impact getting jumped on by Summit. Cloud9 backing off, but still keeping the Drake aggro. Inspired has made his way into the pit now. The ulti coming out from the Aphelios. Now they're ready to go. Blaber's in the middle of everybody. Blaber's going to be shielded and healed and brought right back to full HP. Impact in the Undying Rage, but he will not get away. Shut down for Berserker. And Cloud9, having killed the most valuable member of the enemy team, are poised to take the Drake. Inspired is still alive. Possibility of a smite fight is still there. Cloud9 with control over the pit. 2,000 HP left of the Drake. Inspired goes in. He got it! Inspired steals the Elder Drake.
But can EG get out? They've got to try to run here, try to survive, keep some of those buffs alive. The TP coming through from Jojo, he will escape. Danny, though, they're on the chase.
Vulcan gets caught out by the axe. He tries to flash away. He'll get away from the follow-up there. Wants to take Blast Cone over the wall. It gets Vulcan out.
That was game-saving potentially there from Inspired, but Cloud9 still going to go to the Baron here, still going to claim one of those super buffs.
Yeah, he sacrificed himself to save the Elder, but gives up Baron in the process. And Cloud9 played that fight perfectly.
Yeah.
The one advantage that we hadn't really talked about diving backlines is if Cloud9 fails, it's actually okay. You can just
reset
the fight. You blow all your healing, you get everyone topped up to full. When Impact fails a dive and can't assassinate the backline, he's useless the rest of the fight. There's no more ultimate. So watch this. Both people go in at the exact same time. Blaber's gonna nearly die, get absolutely chunked out. Impact's gonna get peeled. Blaber's gonna turn around to focus on getting Impact out of the fight. And after this point, look at the health bars. They're so different.
Yep, and in the Rocket Flip, the Switch replay, we can see just that. It's so difficult for Impact to actually close that gap, and that's what I was talking about team fighting into a Thresh. Yes, the Thresh is the only peel, but Glacial Augment slows you down so much. The box slows you down so much. Play, Lantern, Hook are all so disruptive that Impact had an enormous amount of gold, but got almost zero value from it in that fight.
And to be fair, Blaber was forcing the rest of EG's backline from being able to really help Impact in the assassination. It's both doing 4-1 opportunities, but Blaber doesn't actually need to kill anyone in his 1v4. He just needs to be like, hey guys, look at me, drop all your damage and just don't kill me. And as long as he doesn't die, he's done his job. Whereas Impact needs to kill someone.
It's so interesting because in this situation, I actually think against a Thresh, you cannot dive backline solo.
Yeah.
So as weird as it sounds, I almost feel like Impact should play front to back with his team. Like, if you don't have the perfect angle onto a Jinx or someone, you just need to be there and hit the Olaf too, because you actually have an upgraded heal cut, and if you can get some more damage in there, potentially burst down the Olaf, that could be fight-changing, because he's not going to solo out Berserker, who has Winsome by him, who has Fudge by him.
I was thinking almost the opposite as well. I was like,
or just split push and never group.
Well, I was gonna say Jojo can also just like, try to ignore the Olaf if he's going on to Danny. Like,
so hard.
It's hard to ignore, but if
you
flash Alt QE, and if you die, you die. But hopefully you take someone with you. I don't know. This is what makes this game so interesting right now.
This is sounding like some YOLO plays to me, but sometimes that's what it comes down to. 12-9. Advantage for Cloud9. They still have the Baron here for another minute.
This is the trick from Perks' tweet. Don't give Blaber an Olaf angle. Everything is an Olaf angle for Blaber.
He's a 360-degree champion.
Alrighty, Cloud9 using the teleport to bring Fudge back here in mid. The push continues, pressuring towards the tier 2s. Now, I'm not sure what the assist me ping on the inhibitor means. That's probably just memes. Anyway, Evil Geniuses will continue their defense. 30 more seconds here on the Baron buff. So Cloud9 haven't got a lot of success out of this one here yet. Blaber is waiting right there in the brush. He'll find Vulcan, but now he'll take a lot of damage. Well, honestly, not even that much. A couple of spells, but they didn't seem to hurt too badly. Mid lane tier 2 will fall there as they were able to distract Evil Geniuses long enough to get that wave in, crash that, and grab the money they needed. With the Baron about to expire, Cloud9 have a 2,500 gold lead. They still have that soul. And my friends, we get to do this all again in a couple of minutes. 2.5 minutes till Elder Spawn.
Yeah, we're going to get another crazy fight. You can just see how hard it is for both teams to kind of push against the other.
Yeah.
There's so much wave clear on EG side. You talk about Blaber running distraction again. Hey guys, look at, like, that's his whole job at this point in this game. It's like, look at me, hit me. And then when they do that, they are able to grab those 2 inner turrets. Blaber, I feel like, understands his role in this game now. It is to be as annoying as possible. It's not to be a late game hyper carry.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, man, because Berserker is now full build, and he's the real problem here, I think, as far as the damage dealer at this point in the game. Olaf's time is kind of over as that big carry threat, but Berserker's is just beginning. You know, he's on 100% crit now. He's a full item up on Danny, who admittedly did just complete the IE, so he just had a big spike there too. If Jojo can get to death cap and Danny can finish the build, they start to really get another shot in this game, but Cloud9 has been pushing it, and really it was just that Elder steal that kind of, I think, prevented Cloud9 from ending the game.
Guardian Angel purchased just now for Blaber as well, meaning even if he does go in, even if they can manage to get through all that shielding and healing, he's going to come back to life, and you know Fudge is going to have more heals ready to go for him.
It's
very
such
tough to
a
deal with.
huge item. I'm surprised he delayed it all the way till 4th item, because if you do get popped in one of those times that you run in and you kind of mismanage your healing.
Double GA even.
Yeah, now it just allows you to get back up, and it's really scary for EG to just run over the corpse of Olaf and like pretend that he's not going to come back up in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you kind of have to respect the zoning power it gives you, which allows you to continue focus on peeling on impact if he dives in.
And now it's just about buying time here on this top side, but they're looking to potentially threaten the dive. They're trying to zone the back. Impact has group, though. He's here.
Berserker's ultimate already whipped, but the tier 3 turret is already dead. Blaber and the rest of Cloud9 will get away, having claimed the objective. Baron up in 1 minute and 15. Elder up in 40 seconds. And Cloud9 are looking to reset and get in position for these.
Man, this is such a crazy game at this point, because even Summit, Yes, he is still down a little bit, but he is not down a lot. Impact actually sold the stopwatch, went for a more aggressive build. So he went Serilda's Grudge. He was sitting on stopwatch. I thought he was going to go for a GA off of that. Instead, he's going for a little bit of armor pen himself. There is obviously some armor being purchased up, with the tabbies, with the GA. There's a chain vest in that. But this is going to give him more CDR. It's going to give him higher damage. So I think he's really kind of looking at it through the point of view of, like, I basically have to insta-kill someone, and that is my job. And maybe he really is actually going to hit Blaber.
I mean, it does help as well with slowing if you want to apply the Serilda's Grudge onto someone in a chase down.
Random and slow, Serilda's slow.
Well, here we go. 25 seconds on Baron, but the Elder's alive. Summit is back in the enemy base. He will be answered by Jojo, but Jojo can't just walk up to the Camille like this. Danny getting away. EG in retreat as Cloud9 still have control in the 4v4 and in the 1v1. Summit claims that top lane inhibitor. Evil Geniuses split up. Cloud9 still grouped as 4. Blaber walks over those chompers. He's popped the ghost. He's ready to go. They throw out the lantern. They pull him right back. He doesn't even have to use Ragnarok. Still has that ulti ready to go. Yes, Ghost was spent, but that doesn't matter as much. Jojo's still clearing out the waves back in the base. Summit is backing. He has unleashed teleport. He is ready to go and join this fight if he needs to. Tries to jump in on Jojo. Uses the ignite, trades it away for Jojo's flash. Back here in the river, Impact is ready to make some sort of a move. They're going there too. It's time to go. Winsome's going to be your target here with the start for the Soraka. Heals come down. Berserker goes back over the wall. The DPS is ready to fire. Fudge is down. Winsome is down. Blaber's going to be tanking up and doing whatever the man can, but the man can't do nothing. Summit's going to be taken low. Berserker is dominating. Berserker is coming back to life. And Berserker will cut them down.
That's it. Berserker mops up EG. Had about 100 Junkers stacked up there, and he erases them in what was an incredible fight.
Welcome to the LCS Berserker. Absolute superstar performance there to save a fight that looked like EG were going to be able to run away with it after they initially killed Fudge.
Nicely done from Cloud9. Beautifully played from this new AD carry. And C9 are going to end their first week of the regular season here with no losses. They'll take down EG.
What an exciting start to the season here for Cloud9. Enchanters mid, back-to-back games, playing their own style. EG really making him work for it, though, and I've got to say, Impact played an incredible game. I was being a little bit of a doubter, saying this is a bit of a different style champion for him, but he had an incredible game on the Tryndamere.
Yeah, EG played well, but the Church of LS cannot be denied. There's new converts coming in, new disciples, welcome everyone. The doors are open.
So what I'm starting to take away from these games is when you're up against these mid-lane enchanter compositions, you must double check and triple check whether or not you want to fight for these early dragons.
Yeah.
Because when you give them a situation where they now have these dragons and even footing in terms of gold, they know how to play the game.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where you have to be certain that you will kill someone instantly in a fight. Enchanters get so much value in the extended fights. When you're getting multiple rounds of shields, multiple rounds of healing out, they really start to outweigh their counterparts. And, we saw that across multiple fights, even in this final fight. Yes, Fudge did get actually burst down. It was a pretty nice setup on the flank, from EG, and I'm sure the analyst desk will cover that final fight, in a little bit. But the multi-angle attack there was really well done, and knocking down Fudge makes you think they could actually win, but they spent so much time then trying to take out Olaf, and we're actually going to get to see it one more time.
Yeah, I love the double flank by Inspired Impact, understanding, hey, we got to get on top of Fudge, and they do it. But Berserker flashed over the wall. He's totally safe now and still in range. Inspired does have his ult on, so he's not actually taking damage quite yet. But then he lands that ult from range.
The shield on Blaber.
A million chakrams while they're trying to deal with Blaber. They get him down, but this is where the GA comes up big. Now they're focusing down Summit. He also has a fat shield, which allows Berserker to come in after stacking the chakrams off the wave and just two-hit Jojo.
It's something I didn't actually catch in the initial play. The ulti there, the knockback from Summit, he ulted beside Jojo and actually knocked Jojo directly into range of Berserker, and he just got absolutely two-shot. It's just ridiculous when you have that many chakrams stacked up. It's just one auto, and you just do all of them.
It's the highlight reel for Aphelios. 200 chakrams at once. You just cut down anybody that's in your way.
Every year.
Yeah, you just watch the entire 2 centuries of DPS happening all in front of our very eyes as they're able to turn and burn. And it looked very dire there for a moment as Berserker's just back in mid lane. It almost looks like, okay, they're saying the fight's probably done. Make sure you shove out the wave or whatever, get whatever you can. But no, he's just buying time to make that re-entry, with all that damage. Awesome to see. With their prayers answered, Cloud9 take another win in the regular season, and now LeTigress is on stage with Fudge for the Verizon post-game interview.
Thank you, Captain Flowers. Cloud9 bringing their own flavor once again. Before I ask you a bit about that flavor, I do want to know, what are your thoughts on EG in terms of the threat that you expected them to be going into this?
Honestly, going into this game, we thought that they were better than us as a team in general. So we didn't want to really play standard composition, which is also why I decided to first time Soraka on stage in 4-5.
Wait, so if you consider them more of a threat, are we more likely to see unconventional drafts like this?
I would say that it's just a way of surprising them because, like, for example, I practiced this mid matchup a lot of times in 1v1s. And although I didn't play a single Soraka game for the past 2 years, I actually haven't played an actual Soraka game for 2 years, but I played a lot of 1v1s with Copy, the Academy mid laner, and I think he actually played the matchup better than jojopyun. So I feel like I understood the matchup a lot better. The early game did not go as it should when he plays like these runes. It should go a lot worse, but it went pretty well. The game, especially in the early game, I think we had a pretty good spot.
What is it like, just in general, opening up to this side of your champion pool when you're already trying to get to know a lot of the standard matchups in the mid lane, and then you play Ivern yesterday and you play Soraka today? You even tweeted about just pressing E yesterday, but it's definitely a different vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely a very different way of playing the game. Usually my ego is a bit damaged whenever I'm down CS, but because Blaber is up CS, I feel like, it's okay. Blaber usually plays really well, so I trust him whenever I play these mid picks to play really, really well, and I think he pushes the limits of what can happen in the game really well, so it makes it look a lot better.
It is 2 back-to-back games where we're seeing a lot of the faith in the Blaber basket to carry. How much of an internal focus is that, recognizing his skill when he's on these aggressive picks and having the entire team enable him to really see it through?
Yeah, I think, as I said before, I think Blaber is a player that's very, very good at pushing his limits. And I think when you play enchanters, you can really, really play on the very thin line and play diving them. Like, for example, when the Viktor died in the dive, I think most junglers wouldn't go for that. But he really he understands his champion very well, and he understands my champion very well. So I think he's able to enable me to be very useful in these games. And I think that a lot of the credit should go to him as a player.
Really quickly, what were you feeling in the last moment of that game, having to watch as the rest of the team really powered through for the victory?
I thought it was a pretty free win because they used all their flashes to try to kill me. And by the time Tryndamere had killed me, he was already 1 HP and using ulti. So I thought, because we had GA as well, we had Guardian Angel and multiple champions, I thought it was a pretty free and last team fight based on how they played.
Yeah, absorbing all of the pressure that they could throw at you very effectively, Fudge. Thank you for stopping by for the interview.
Thank you.
A lot to talk about in that game, which tends to be the case after the Cloud9 games as of late. So let's send things on over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, LeTigress. Cloud9 sitting pretty at 2-0. Emily's got the prediction right on that one.
Oh my God.
Bow down, Raz. Bow down, friend.
I rarely get to be right in predictions. I'm just saying. I got to milk it when I can.
Another intriguing draft courtesy of LS and the rest of Cloud9 with that Soraka coming into the mid lane. But I want to dive straight into some replays, Emily.
Yeah, so here's where I think EG take advantage of the fact that JoJo does have a pushing lane here. They go in, they dive. The Soraka isn't able to get in as timely as she would want. And that does show that EG did have a pretty good understanding of, hey, we know we need to dive in early to do something against this composition before the healing comes through.
And actually, on that point, it just kind of reminds me of Fudge's answer, Tim, in the interview about how they came into this matchup viewing EG as the better team at this moment and feeling like, therefore, they were forced to play somewhat unconventionally to get an edge.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take, actually, because when I see this draft and then I see how they drafted yesterday, I go, well, is this them cheesing or is it just the way they want to play, right? And for him to acknowledge, we were basically cheesing this game and wanted to set them off. And I mean, that's not any kind of criticism of it. Obviously, it worked and it won. So, but for them to acknowledge EG are a really strong opponent, we had to do a bit of a pivot to throw them off. That's pretty interesting to hear.
Yeah, and that'll be fun to track throughout the split, right? Okay, where are they playing standard? Where are they playing something a little bit different?
What is standard?
and what will become known as standard, either in the LCS or just for Cloud9. I want to roll ahead to our next replay, this one around the Drake here. First Drake for Cloud9. Ultimately, they would be able to secure the soul, and that would play big into their win.
Good job from the C9 bot lane, just leaning in just in case, because they're not going to say, okay, yeah, we have this Drake. They're going to make sure that Olaf is supported here, and they came in clutch time. So this was a bad answer from Evil Geniuses. They basically took a gambit thinking that they can get a low HP Olaf. So they were wrong.
That just brings up to me, again, another thing that Fudge said, this idea of having so much faith in Blaber that he can play those picks like Soraka, Ivern, and mid, that Blaber will be able to carry on an Olaf per se.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, in the interview from Fudge, he was talking about how, of course, talking about they had to offset Evil Geniuses. So that was one thing. But then also, even I would assume how Evil Geniuses were taking it, the casters themselves were talking about it. We were just kind of having the conversation of who scaled better, right? Sure, 3 champions on the side of Evil Geniuses were, from C9 were full AD. And so like that was the idea where you just had to stack armor. But it didn't matter if you just had the healing done.
Now, on that post-game breakdown, damage numbers are fun to look at, but Emily, healing numbers, I think, would also be something fun to track in this game.
11K healing done by Soraka, and that doesn't cover to herself, it's just to her teammate.
Exactly, and that's even into an Oblivion Orb. So there was some healing reduction on the other side. Let's dive into player of the game and our first announcement of a rival on air. We'll start on the player of the game side of things. It's going to Berserker for Cloud9. And Tim, I'm coming back to you because we spoke rookies top of day, and this is one of the guys that was on the forefront of that conversation.
Yeah, and I think we saw with the Aphelios what he was able to get done this game. There were fights where it was one of the fights in the mid game. He just stepped up and Danny just instantly died. Obviously, the really big fight at the end there where he's able to, Fudge takes all the aggression and dies, but Berserker is able to kite back just enough and then turn it around and clean it up to win the game. Because he understands those ranges and says, hey, if I stand just here, they're going to think they can get me, but really they can't. And he managed to fight so well. And yeah, really this game's so hard.
100%. And I mean, like, I know that fight you were talking about. I think he was playing really well around Winsome's Thresh Lannister too. So both of those fight, that one and the game-ending fight, it felt like he understood how, to manage his champion excellently, and it was a great first look into this player during the split. So I'm excited to see what Berserker can do.
Flip side, the rival on the losing team, Emily, it's Impact in the top lane. Tryndamere, a different look for him, but damn did he deliver, looking to make a statement. Yeah,
and he had so many plays in this game that really kept EG in it through side lane pressure, through his ability to keep the Camille down and continue to challenge her. There were times where they could, like C9, could have split the map more, and the reason they couldn't was because of Impact, right? Like, because they couldn't get that Camille in the side lane. It did, they like that the game goes slow anyway, but they could not split pressure in a way that you'd want to with the Camille and then have her joining fights later. I think he kept them in the game for a time so that the Viktor could scale up, so that the Jinx could scale up.
Yeah, and the biggest tragedy there is just the game state. I mean, it's Elder Dragon that you have to constantly focus towards, so that's pulling Tryndamere away from playing through sides, which he was doing a good job of. I think Evil Geniuses were playing well around him, and then he has to play into a team fight, into a Soraka, who can silence you and really stop you from doing what you want to do. And so, like, in that game-winning team fight, I was like, okay, we got the Soraka down. We have to go to, and kill, like, an absurdly healthy and tanky Olaf. And the Berserker was just basically primed for the fight with his chakrams. And so I think it was really hard at that stage of the game for Tryndamere to do his job. But he had a really good game.
Well, it was exactly the kind of game we wanted. Close on both sides, both teams with opportunities to win. And Tim, I want to thank you so much for joining us here, both in the waiting room and to help break down this third matchup today. Hopefully we'll see you again soon sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. All right, it's time for us to step away, but on the other side, Golden Guardians hunt for their first regular season win against FlyQuest. Don't go anywhere.
We're ready to go for a smite fight. It will go over the way of Cloud9, but what about the rest of the fight thereafter? Vulcan having to get away, Inspired shut down. Massive heals end up coming out from Fudge, and it keeps people alive. Double kill back over to Blaber. They're going there too. It's time to go. Winsome's going to be your target here at the start for the Soraka. Heals come down. Berserker goes back over the wall. They got Fudge ready to fire. Fudge is down. Winsome is down. Blaber's going to be tanking up and doing whatever the man can, but the man can't do nothing. nothing. Someone's gonna be
Berserker!
taken low. Berserker is dominating. Berserker is coming back to life. And Berserker will cut them down.
What is going on?
I can't afford streaming anymore, so.
Sure you can. State Farm has rates that fit your budget.
Oh, good. Because some true crime would be nice.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
A lion! Ah, yes, the king of the jungle. Time for a Red Bull. Red Bull? Still, you'll never be faster than a lion. I don't have to be quicker than the lion, just faster than you. Red Bull gives you wings.
They give us love. They give us joy. They give us lessons in sharing. So give them some love back. And what says love better than something you can chew on? Use your MasterCard to make secure purchases from anywhere. So your gift will end up in the right hands or mouth. Because being there for each other is priceless.